All right, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to have a interview with Dr. Anthony J. of AJ Consulting Company concerning my DNA from 23andMe and what his analysis brings. He's given me a written report and then a Excel in a PDF document and then an Excel spreadsheet with 31 sets of numbers and letters. Hopefully, he's going to explain all that. The report gives things about information about best time of days to work out, um, best supplements to take, best supplements to avoid, other items that I need to avoid, or other things that I need to build back into my life if I don't already do it. So we're going to start this about 9 a.m. It's 8:59, so let's just wait. I'll announce that I'm going to record it so he knows that he's being recorded, and we'll go from there.
Hey, Roger.
Hey, Dr. J, how's it going?
Hey, good.
Just so you know, I'm going to record this, so I've got it on both video and audio recording.
For sure. Yeah, good. That's the way to do it.
Let's see, just miss that. Okay.
All right, let's do this. But obviously you got my email.
I got your email. I've got the report. I've read through it once. There's a lot to absorb, even though it's only 2 pages or 3 pages. But
Yeah.
thanks
Yeah,
for.
and I don't even want people to like go through those too carefully until we talk about them. Because it's more for like the important thing is that we discuss the stuff instead of just trying to, you know, isolate something.
Right.
And then, so what I obviously did is I sent you the PDF and then an Excel sheet. Excuse me.
That's okay.
And the PDF has detox genes. You know how your body gets rid of different chemicals or
Right. Right.
Excel sheet is just any other random genes that came up on my screen. So you know, like when you do the 23andMe thing, right? They have like all these genes with like 1.3-fold increased risk and 1.5-fold increased risk and that sort of
Right.
thing.
Right.
And what's funny is like if you repeat those studies, most of the time you don't find the same result, you know, because the risk is so small.
Okay.
It's real inconsistent. So when I'm looking at training genes, you know, athletic genes, diet genes, longevity genes, I'm looking for bigger risks, you know, like
Okay.
twofold or bigger risks for changes, right? Twofold increase or more.
Uh huh.
And you know, and then anything else that's in context with your blood work and whatnot. So we'll just start with the detox genes though first, and then we come back to all the random genes.
Okay.
On page 4, right on the PDF. You go
Okay.
to like it's the last page on the PDF.
Says extra information at the top.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to explain some of that just so you have a sense. It's not necessary that you know all this, but it's just good to have a little bit of a sense of what it means.
Okay.
You know, I'm obviously looking at a lot of different detox genes, but I'm only putting the ones on here that you're either a plus minus or a plus plus, meaning you got a bad version of the gene from one of your parents or both of your parents. Plus plus means you get a bad copy of the gene from your mother and a bad copy from your father in this case.
Okay.
Right? So like the first one, right, on the top, there's the COMT V158M. Do you see that one?
Yes.
So it's in gray highlight because it's a plus plus. And then just having that gene, that's a COMT gene. I'll discuss that in a minute, but V stands for valine. You know, that's an amino acid. And
Yes.
then M stands for methionine.
Okay.
So normally people have a valine at position 158 on that gene, but you've got a methionine. So
Okay.
that's kind of like the mutation, right? And that gives you a 40% reduction in COMT activity. So then the question is, well, what does that mean, right?
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that in a second. But before we move on, you've got another issue with COMT. So you have 2 spots on COMT,
I
and this
see
is
that.
really common. It's really common in Caucasians to have COMT gene issues. So it's not a big deal. It's just something. And then VDR is the next one. That's vitamin D receptor.
Okay.
And again, we'll talk about it. On page 2, it actually says all of this. But
Yeah.
the MTHFR is significant because it's the plus minus MTHFR C677T.
Okay.
That's significant because that one is really well studied because it causes a lot of significant health issues, especially for women because they have miscarriages.
Okay.
And you have a plus minus, so it's not as bad, right? If you have a plus plus like I do on this gene, you have a 70% less efficiency in processing folic acid. You've got a 35% less efficiency, so folic acid is probably something you want to avoid.
Okay.
And grains, oftentimes they put folic acid in grains,
Yeah, that goes along with the IWG's report that says I should probably avoid grains. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the only minus I add to this report is your CYP1A2, and that's just to indicate you're a fast metabolizer of caffeine because most people want to know that, and you probably already know that based on your 23andMe information.
Yep.
And then finally NAT2 is at the very bottom. You have 2 genes there, and we'll talk about those. So the only other thing to note on this page, again, you don't even need to know any of this, it's just a little bit of background. The only other thing is the MTRR. You see, there's 2 genes there.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
A66 and then
A350.
Yep. So when you have 2 positions on the same gene that are plus minus, usually that causes a health impact. And so I'll bring that out in our discussion in a bit as well.
Okay.
All right, so now you can go back to page 2 and we'll talk actionable things that actually make sense.
Okay, I'm there.
So here's what I found based on my analysis, etc. So then, of course, the COMT gene at the top, basically that's catechol O-methyltransferase. So it's involved in breaking down catecholamines. Catecholamines are, it's not important that you know all the details about them, but
Right.
basically you're gonna have more catecholamines in your body. And what that can do is it signals to your kidneys to excrete more water and more electrolytes than the average person.
Oh,
So
okay.
you have to replenish that more than normal. I think the idea that drink tons of water, I think that's kind of exaggerated, but for you it's not because for you it's actually important.
Yeah, unfortunately, what goes in has to come out too. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, more so, and I check your blood pressure genes, in relation to sodium, because some people have genetic issues with hypertension from sodium, not
Okay.
from angiotensin or something else, or
Right.
ACE.
Right.
You did not have hypertension from sodium, any of those genetics, so you can have plenty of salt, and it shouldn't alter your blood pressure.
Okay. And you recommended one. How's Himalayan salt? Is that
Yeah,
on that
good.
scale?
Yeah.
Okay? Because I've fallen in love with that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
use enough of it, but I will start.
Yeah. The only reason I like Redmond is because it's cheaper. It's also from an ancient seabed, just like Himalayan, and so there's
Okay.
no pollution in the ocean back then. And
Oh yeah. Okay.
it's also it's just cheaper. You can find it if you can find it in your grocery store. You can buy a lot of it, So people
Okay.
cook with a bunch of this stuff. But yeah, keep using the Himalayan. That's good.
Okay.
Adrenaline stays in your body longer than normal based on this gene, which isn't an issue. It's just sometimes, especially if you work out in the evening, that actually spikes your adrenaline and then it disrupts your sleep cycles.
Yeah.
And I know sleeping was one of your things, right?
And it's been horrible lately. I've been lucky to get 5 hours a night lately. So.
Yeah, we'll come back to that when we
Okay.
talk about the Excel sheet.
Okay.
But magnesium in the evenings really helps, and I know you take magnesium glycinate.
Yep.
Do you take that in the evening?
Normally take it when I'm on a heavy workout schedule. It's usually about 3 times a day.
Sure. Yep.
But the last one is actually before bed. So.
And then the D3, you're not taking that in the morning. Or are you taking that in the morning or in the evening?
First thing in the morning, I take it with my Synthroid and a couple other things that I take.
Yep. Good. Okay, so yeah, what's funny about the COMT gene is vitamin D can inhibit the enzyme. It can lower the function.
Okay.
But because you have a vitamin D issue, that's the next paragraph. I still want to see like high levels of vitamin D, you know. But that just means drink more water and have more salt. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It
Okay.
doesn't need to lower your vitamin D. And I couldn't find vitamin D on your blood test, so they must have taken it. I just couldn't find it.
Huh.
What number were you for vitamin D? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I've kind of stopped taking all supplements while I'm on this cleanse.
Yeah.
As soon as the cleanse is over, then we'll start with treatment with IWG, and part of that's going to be to add in the supplements that are good for me. And I'm sure D3 and magnesium are both going to be on that list.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah, so that's pretty simple. The only other thing about the COMT gene is when you have a plus plus like this, it usually makes you more of a worrier.
Oh yeah, boy. that describes this past 4 or 5 days extremely well.
Yeah, that's just a genetic trait that you just want to recognize that you've got compared to other people that it might,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily have to have an impact. It's just something you can know about yourself,
Well, with the hormonal imbalance from the low testosterone, that's exacerbated that worrying response.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you're taking synthetic testosterone, obviously, right?
No, I'm not taking anything yet. I've got an appointment with my urologist, unfortunately, not till November.
Wow, so you're naturally at like 50 or whatever it was? 40?
That's that's 45.
Yeah.
And that's only been recent. 2 months ago it was 167, so it's just plummeting.
Really
So,
okay. I assumed you were just taking a synthetic steroid because usually when you take a synthetic one, it drives your natural testosterone way low like that.
yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Okay.
I was taking Rad 140 testosterone, so that could be what dropped it like that too.
And how many years did you take that?
Oh, I only took that 6 months.
And when was that? Like recently?
Yeah, that was recently. That was
Okay.
up until 3 weeks ago when that report came out. Then I saw that. I said, "That's it. I'm off that stuff." It's not supposed to suppress natural testosterone production, but
Yeah.
that's like everything else. It all depends who you are, what your physical condition is, and it may have affected some other system that dropped the testosterone. So.
Yeah. But even 165 is really, really low. I want to see about 500.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my height most recently it was 490, so it was in the normal range, and then just over that 6 months it steadily dropped. So that's a clear indicator the rad was suppressing it.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that when we get to the extra genes too, because I have some other ideas. But
Okay.
But I mean, thankfully your detox genes are pretty good.
Good.
So this part's pretty short, but so obviously vitamin D is going to be real important for you, and they probably checked it. I just couldn't find it on that sheet. That was a lot of blood work. They did a lot of nice work for you there with all the different things. So I appreciated that. Usually you can do a control F and search for some keyword.
Right.
But that document was kind of scanned, so it wouldn't let me search for the keyword.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So I couldn't search vitamin D, but it's probably in there somewhere. But basically, I want to see the level above 50.
Yeah, I should have scanned that into Adobe Acrobat and then made it a searchable document. Is what I should have done. I'll remember to do that next time for other things.
Well, I got all the other things. That was the only one I couldn't find. And then, like, I would probably want to see if you're at 40, take more vitamin D. Now, if you're at 50, you're good. I just want to make sure you're above 50 with your vitamin D receptor.
Okay.
Some people debate about this particular gene. They say like it's actually protective and it's beneficial instead of adverse. But in my experience, there's some studies that kind of go one way, and some studies that go the other way with this particular gene that you've got, and I just say keep it above 50 and you're good, you know.
Okay.
The last one you had plus plus on was the NAT2, that's N-acetyltransferase.
Okay.
That's that last paragraph on page 2.
I see it.
And so acetyltransferase, so it's transferring an acetyl group. So this enzyme basically puts a flag on carcinogens, you know, like cancer-causing chemicals. It flags them, tells your body to get rid of them. So for you, like avoiding carcinogens is super important. That includes like personal care products, you know, all those weird preservatives and junk they put in those things.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've stopped using antiperspirants. I'm using a natural product from Whole Foods now because the aluminum showed up in that mineral scan that they did also. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. The other thing that helps with this gene is vitamin C. You know, because vitamin C is a unique one because it's an antioxidant, so it prevents against cancer to some degree, but also when your body breaks it down, it gets converted to hydrogen peroxide.
Okay.
And that kills cancer cells.
Okay.
So it's a win-win, you know, to have higher vitamin C. And I know you're taking a multi; they always have some in those multis, but you know.
Yeah, I've got other vitamin C, but I always tend to forget it. So. Maybe I'll put a note and make sure that I remember it from now on.
Yeah, and the garlic, what's funny about this one is garlic inhibits this enzyme. So you definitely don't want to supplement garlic. Maybe a short-term thing if you've got some gut issue, but like some people supplement garlic for years and years, and that's just going to cause more carcinogens to build up in your body, and you don't want that. Once in a while, like have it with your cooking and all that, no big deal, but like, every day would be a problem in my mind.
Yeah, this cleanse included significant garlic, so I'm glad it's almost over.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, so then the only other thing is on the next page, page 3. I want to talk about MTHFR for a minute.
Okay.
So that one's so significant. And then the final gene was MTRR.
Okay, I see it.
And I've got a little typo there. It says based on your plus plus MTRR in the last paragraph. It should say plus minus, right?
Okay, I made that change.
Yeah, sorry about that. It should say based on your plus minus MTRR gene variants because you had 2 MTRR spots that were plus minus, remember?
Yep.
So again, that's my mistake, but as long as you're aware.
Yeah. Awareness is a good thing.
Yeah. And it probably will have the same effect. You know, when you have a plus plus or when you've got 2 plus minuses, it's usually a comparable effect on your health. And just on that last paragraph, basically if you take B12 or if you make sure you've got plenty of B12, that will help. You know, that's really important for you. So meat is really important. So vegetarian would not be ideal for you, probably.
Yep, and that supports the IWG thing in the blood type diet, which basically says, you know, eat meat, red meat.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So that's it for that paragraph. It's pretty simple. You don't have to supplement B12 because I always like to see it when you get the nutrients from the food, you know.
Yeah.
And because meat's got plenty of B12, eggs, all that stuff. There's no reason to supplement it if you're already getting plenty of it.
Right.
But if you're a vegetarian, then you'd have an issue, you know. And some people are, you know, a lot of people are.
that explains when I went vegetarian a bunch of years ago. I went vegetarian for about a year and a half, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I'd be around people with meat, and I wanted it. I was at that point where the vegetarian was tired and the meat eater wanted it. So
that's good. At least you could listen to your body. And, you know. So that's it for that gene. But then if you go back up to the second paragraph, based on your MTHFR gene status,
right?
MTHFR is an enzyme involved in converting folic acid into methylfolate. So, you know, folic acid is a fake chemistry compound. It's found in labs only. It's not found in nature.
Okay.
So in nature, you find folate. You find methylfolate, right? Some people just call it folate, but technically methylfolate.
Okay.
Like in spinach or raspberries, especially, you find a lot of methylfolate. But way back in the day, they made this compound called folic acid, which is they patented it and this whole thing.
Yep.
And now they consider it a vitamin, even though, you know, your body, it's not found in nature, so your body has to convert it to methylfolate.
That's kind of a stretch, isn't it?
Yeah. So like for you, your body doesn't do that as well, right? 35% less
Okay. Yeah.
the
Yep.
ability to do that, even just with the plus minus. So frankly, like you really want to avoid folic acid, and that's where the multivitamins can actually come back and haunt you because they usually have folic acid in those, and then it actually causes problems. Because, like, let's say you're eating spinach, right?
Right. Right.
And you're getting methylfolate, but then you're also supplementing folic acid, or you're eating grains and that's got folic acid. Then folic acid will stick to the receptors and basically gunk up the system, so your body can't even use the methylfolate.
Oh.
So it's actually more problematic than it would appear. You
Okay.
know?
Okay.
So the funny thing about that one, or the ironic thing, is that it increases heavy metals if you have a problem, because the methylfolate pathway is involved in clearing heavy metals.
Uh-huh.
And so a lot of people, when they start, if they supplement 5-MTHF, which is just another way of saying methylfolate for Amazon searches, when you start supplementing that, they'll get like weird heart palpitations and all kinds of weird symptoms because heavy metals will suddenly release from your fat cells.
Oh.
So then your heavy metals goes way up in your blood because your body is getting rid of them.
Uh-huh.
But in the temporary term, it's bad, right? Because you get problems from heavy metal. So you want to start real slow when you do methylfolate so that you don't overwhelm your system with toxic crap, you know?
Right. Right.
And that's, again, that's why it's so important not to take a generic multivitamin in your case.
Okay.
So, and it'll save you money too, right? I mean, like magnesium, D3,
Yeah.
super important, you know? But anyway, so that's the detox gene. So let's talk about, you know, other stuff on the Excel sheet, which will have a lot more information.
Okay.
So I start off. So what I do is I give you an Excel sheet. I've got all kinds of notes on all the information over on my end, but because it's so variable from person to person, you know, and my notes are so messy, I just give you the codes. So if you wanted to do more research on like number 5 or number 15 or whatever,
right,
you can just make a little note to yourself, like number 15 is this gene relating to gluten or whatever. And then you can just look that up later if you want to do more research.
Okay. And that's at the link on your website or
just Google,
Google too?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, because there's 20,000 genes, right? And I don't list all of them on my website.
Okay. Okay.
And then the only thing to note here is there's RS. You see the letters RS in front of most of those?
Yes.
So that stands for reference SNP. That's just a way scientists use to look up some of these genes. It's just a shorthand.
Okay.
And then the letters on the, and by the way, GS, some of them say GS, right?
Right.
That stands for group of SNPs. Like they cross-reference a bunch of different areas on the gene to make sure it's a valid issue.
Okay.
So versus reference, it's not super important that you know that. It's just, like I say, it's more background just so you have a sense that it means something. And then finally, like you see number 1, it says AA, and the next one says GG.
Yep.
Right? So DNA is made up of ATGC. That's the letter code for DNA.
Okay.
So on these genes, like AA would be a plus plus. A plus plus could also be a TT. It could be a CC. Any 2 letters that are the same would be a plus plus on my Excel.
Okay.
Whereas 2 different letters like CT
would
or
be
GT or AT, right? Those would be a plus minus.
Okay.
Right? Again, you don't need to know that, but it just makes a little more sense now, hopefully.
Yes.
So let's talk about it. So the very first one on there, number 1 through 11 are diet-related genes, because I figure that's probably where most of your issues come from in terms of your telomeres length.
Right.
Because actually number 12 through 16, those are your longevity genes. Number 12 indicates a plus plus for longer telomeres. So genetically, you actually have longer telomeres than average.
Okay.
So basically, your diet is and you're probably mostly your testosterone is clearly suboptimal, such that it's causing your telomeres to be even shortened. You know, like just genetically, you should have even longer ones, and they're shorter. So in other words, it's a bigger problem. You know.
So because I'm genetically predisposed to have longer telomeres, it is possible to increase the length by watching diet and all that other stuff.
Oh yeah, possible for everybody, even if you don't have the genes for it.
Right.
But it's just going to be easier for you, you know?
Good. I need some easy for a while.
Yeah. So that's low hanging fruit. I think it's going to be huge. I think testosterone is going to be the biggest thing. You know, you bring your testosterone up,
Yep.
and you might have to take like the hormone replacement therapy, like a bioavailable form of testosterone
Yeah.
to
Well,
get that up. But
that's why I'm working with IWG. I'll start their plan probably about
Yeah.
the 14th or 15th, and the focus is going to be on detoxing, getting rid of the toxins and stuff, and then
Yeah.
hopefully then maybe through supplementation increase the testosterone.
yeah.
But I have
Yeah.
have that follow up with the doctor, the neurologist, on the 15th of November to talk about TRT if I need it.
Yeah, I would avoid it until you get your levels up as high as you can naturally, and
Yeah.
then go on it. You know, like you want to know how high you can go without any artificial stuff, and then
Okay.
like
Yeah.
try all the really obvious stuff first. And then let's talk about number one, right? So number one is a plus gene related to histamine intolerance. So that's a diamine oxidase enzyme, and basically it's involved in breaking down histamines, and you don't do a very good job of that. I think that's really important to know.
Okay.
So there's a lot of information online and other places basically showing you which foods have high histamines, and there's even books written on this.
Okay.
I would recommend for you to dig into that, you know, and we could spend a whole hour talking about it, but I'd rather go through all your other genes. But that's probably one of the most important things for you genetically, because most of your other genes are pretty good, you know, except for your grain. You know, you don't do well with grains based on your gut lining and stuff. But,
Right.
I mean, histamine is going to be really important. The problem with having histamines is it causes systemic inflammation all the time, like chronic inflammation. That lowers your shrinks your telomeres, you know.
Okay.
So you can reverse that pretty easily by just avoiding histamines really strictly. So the next one on there is a positive plus gene. You have less liver damage from alcohol. So I always check a few things. I check your alcoholism risk and your liver damage risk and some other stuff. Because number 3 is you have a reduction in heart disease risk from a glass of wine per day.
Okay.
So, you know, it can be beneficial. Like wine can be beneficial in your case. And then number 4 is you have a normal risk for alcoholism. Basically, you don't have a high risk for alcoholism.
Okay.
So that's kind of the big picture, right? Like I wouldn't want to recommend a glass of wine per day if you had a high risk for alcoholism. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even if it was going to be beneficial in some way. But you don't have that. You do have a gene number 5 plus associated with alcohol-induced hypersensitivity reaction.
Okay.
So you might Google that and see if you ever had any of those symptoms. It might be worth avoiding alcohol just for that. I don't know. But
Well, I made a personal decision a couple of years ago just to avoid alcohol in general. So
it's probably smart.
I think the most I've ever gotten was in kombucha recently.
Sure.
But that's so minute that, you know.
Yeah, and you might want to watch out for kombucha because it might have histamines.
Yep, and Ben advised me to do that because he says it's got alcohol and you don't drink alcohol, so okay.
Yeah, double whammy there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate when people don't drink alcohol because that slight benefit. The benefit you get, heart, the cardiovascular benefit,
Yeah.
protecting your heart. It's not necessary if you've got a good diet because you shouldn't have plaque in your artery anyways if you don't have inflammation. You know, inflammation is caused, or plaque in the artery is caused by inflammation. It's not caused by cholesterol.
Yeah.
So as long as you don't have any inflammation systemically, then you're not going to get plaque. You don't need a glass of wine to protect against plaque. You know what I mean?
Right.
So number 6, it's actually an Alzheimer's gene I look at, but you did not have the risk for early onset Alzheimer's.
Okay.
But I added it to the diet category because you have ApoE2/ApoE3, so 2, 3. So ApoE is a cholesterol transporter,
Okay.
and especially important in your brain. So if you have like the version 4.4, it gives you like literally 50% odds of getting Alzheimer's,
Okay.
which of course you do not have that, but if you got the version 2, which you also don't have, you've got 2.3, right? It's kind of like a plus minus.
Yeah.
It increases your risk of plaques in the arteries. So you have 2.3, so that slightly increases your risk. It protects against Alzheimer's, but it increases risk of plaques in your arteries.
Okay.
So again, the most important thing for you is to decrease systemic inflammation.
Okay.
And that's functional doctors are all excellent at. That's their main thing.
Oh yeah.
So you should be good with dairy, number 7, genetically. Doesn't mean drinking milk is like the best thing, but
Yeah, I don't like milk anyway, so that's no
at least
problem.
like cheese and stuff like that shouldn't be an issue.
Oh yeah. Now the functional wellness folks recommend that I avoid cow dairy in general and stick to goat.
Because
goat
usually people are inflamed, they get inflamed from it, but
Yeah.
again, genetics indicate you don't, so you should be fine with that. Like
Okay.
they don't have the context that I've got, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't overburden yourself unnecessarily. Like I say,
Oh, yeah.
across the population, it's usually a good recommendation because most people it does cause problems. But for you, but you
Not
can
so
do
much.
it temporarily too if you want.
Well, I don't go out of my way to drink milk, but I like whey protein, just as a quick nutrition after a workout, and
Yeah.
maybe as a meal replacement because I don't have time to get real food.
Right. Yeah, that's perfectly good.
Yep.
Number 8, plus for no increased risk of colon cancer if you're eating processed meats.
Okay.
Your body handles processed meats pretty good.
Okay.
Number 9 is kind of like a sweet tooth gene. It's a plus minus for you having a higher sugar consumption based on a taste bud receptor.
Yeah.
So basically, you taste sugar a little bit more.
So I have a sweet tooth.
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
Some people have a really strong sweet tooth. You don't have like a plus,
Okay.
but it's plus minus. You definitely like sugar more, just in terms of how your brain gets triggered. So something to be aware of, not necessarily, change anything. But number 10 is the gene that I look for in terms of how tough your intestinal lining is. Some people have really weak intestinal lining. Some people have really strong intestinal linings in terms of grains.
Okay.
Yours tends to be weaker. Like you have a higher risk for Crohn's disease, that sort of thing.
Celiac and that, yeah.
Yeah,
I think the
so-
23andMe said that I have a risk of developing celiac.
Yep, and that's this gene. So basically, like brown rice is a lot worse for you. You want to have white rice instead.
Okay.
Anything that's like got a lot of harsh hulls and husks and that sort of thing can rip your intestinal lining.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so you don't want that.
No.
And then, the thyroid hormone. Your T4 was super low on your thyroid.
Yep.
Number 11 is a plus for higher risk of thyroid cancer.
Yeah.
And I don't think you have thyroid cancer, but it's the higher risk, and usually that means like your thyroid gland is, more easily disrupted. It's not going to function as optimal as average. So really important that you have iodine.
Well, iodine's a good thing. I'm starting to build it back into my diet, but I have no thyroid anymore, so I had thyroid cancer, so.
So you have to supplement something to keep your T4 and T3
levothyroxine. And right now my body's not processing it right either, so.
So wait, you had thyroid cancer already?
Yes.
Okay, so there you go. There's the risk for you.
Now it's out of the way.
Yeah, right. Jeez. 'Cause I was gonna say, like, avoid fluoride, like the plague. That can be disruptive, and of course, a lot of
toothpaste. Yeah.
But too late now.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next set of genes are mental genes and longevity. So that's it for the diet. Like nothing too crazy in terms of, like you process fats well, you process proteins well, you process carbs. Okay, they're pretty good. But let's talk a little bit more about the mental genes and how some of these nutrients impact your brain
Okay.
Roger,
before we make anything, any.
11.
11.
Sorry, my wife came in.
Sorry.
That's
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, back.
So yeah, before we draw any big conclusions about carbs and versus fats and all that, let's talk about the mental genes.
Okay.
So the first one, like I said, number 12 is a longer telomerase gene. We talked about that. Number 13 is a plus for increased longevity based on your sirtuin gene. SIRT1 is the name of the gene.
Okay.
When they first discovered that gene, they thought it was going to be like the miracle gene because it caused mice to live like twice as long. So instead of living to 100, you'd live to 200, right?
Wow, yeah.
In humans, it obviously doesn't work that way.
It'd be nice. My goal is 167, so.
Yeah, but like sirtuin, it does help with longevity, so that's a good gene to have.
So shoot, I have a chance. Who knows?
Oh yeah. And the next gene is similar. Number 14, you have better odds to living to 100 based on your ApoC3. That's a cholesterol transporter, so basically it gets cholesterol up in your brain, and that keeps your brain healthier.
Okay.
And number 15 is a little bit off topic, but it's an oxytocin receptor gene. It's a plus minus, and it usually indicates you don't care as much about what other people think of you.
Oh, I don't know. That one's off.
Scientists, they usually call it lack of empathy, but in my experience, people with this gene have a lot of empathy. But like on Twitter, when somebody like is trolling, you just ignore it. But it's plus minus, so you're not like on the extreme end of that. And then also you've got the COMT gene, which means like you're more of a worrier. So like sometimes that balances that out.
Okay.
So you can't make too many conclusions, but I figured I'd throw that in there because it's kind of interesting.
Okay. Yeah, it is.
Number 16 is a plus for less likely to live to 100. So this is your only like problematic gene in terms of aging, and it's a FOXO3 gene. That's FOXO3, and that's related to sugar metabolism in your brain. So basically, you really want to avoid processed carbs and probably just too many carbs in general would be a problem for aging in your case,
Okay.
So that's related to diet again. So, everything else is good in terms of like how your body processes fats and cholesterol and all this stuff. Genetically, you're good. The only thing that's going to be tricky, right, is you got this gene where sugar triggers your brain more than average, right?
Okay.
Sweet tooth gene. I mean, it's plus minus, but still. And then this gene, which indicates sugar is going to be more harmful for your brain, which is funny because if you have a brain cell in a dish, like a neuron in a dish, and you give protein, fat, and carbs, you give it the 3 macros, it will choose to burn sugar every time. It'll burn carbs.
Oh.
Which is unusual because if you put immune system cells in a dish and you give them the 3 macros, it'll burn proteins. And if you put heart cells in a dish, they'll burn fats.
Wow.
So it's not always true that cells will burn sugar, but your brain cells prefer sugar if you give it to them. So for you got to make sure you don't give it to them all the time.
Okay.
Because it's actually harmful. It'll end up causing aging. Frankly.
And your brain's like a dog. It doesn't know it's not good for you. It just wants it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the only dietary thing besides the histamine that's like really important in terms of your overall aging, genetically, right? Like you can have environmental issues that you've built up over the years, but histamine and sugar.
Okay.
Otherwise, you have excellent genetics in that regard. So we can move on to training genes if you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right. So you had 3 major genes that were real interesting. You had two genes, the top 2, 17 and 18. So 17 through 28 are all relating to your exercise and training. So a lot of different genes here. The 17 and 18 both indicate plus that you're a sprinter, a power lifter, you have a higher muscle. Number 18 is a high muscle strength mutation, so you have better power output for surface area, just genetically.
Okay.
But then number 19 is an endurance plus plus endurance gene.
Okay.
So that's weird because you have 2 powerlifting genes and then a random endurance plus plus gene. So that throws everything off, right?
Yeah, you have a power lifter's body. You're not doing much sprinting. It may feel like sprinting to you, but yeah, I've run 16 marathons. I quit counting miles that I ran at 65,000.
Wow.
And that was all in the Army. And I was a fast marathoner. I did a 2:48.
Wow.
Not world class, but good enough to qualify for the Boston, which I never went to. But
Yep. Wow. Yeah, that's your endurance gene probably, and then you got that extra muscle strength mutation, so you managed to tap into both of those probably.
okay.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, how that impacts your training plan, it can kind of go either way for you, right? Usually it's more optimal to lift heavy just for your metabolism.
Okay.
Put on muscle mass because muscle mass it balances your hormones, it protects against toxins, it
Okay.
increases your metabolism while you're sleeping and things like that. So usually, it's more of an anti-aging strategy to try and work, progressive overload instead
Right.
of cardio all the time. But you don't want to overdo it. Overtraining is like the worst thing.
Oh yeah, I've done that a couple of times, but
Oh yeah, yeah,
since I've been with Ben, a lot less.
Yeah.
It's smarter lifting. It's not power lifting.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Ben's one of the best in the world, so
Yeah.
I would defer to him any day. Number 20 is a plus plus for greater risk of disc diseases in your back. Disc problems.
Oh yeah, I got them
Oh yeah, yeah.
from my C spine all the way to my T spine.
Yeah, that's completely genetic. It's related to interleukin, IL-1A specifically.
Okay.
And you could probably look into interleukin, but it's an inflammatory chemical that your body secretes.
Okay.
So it signals to your immune cells and things like that. So basically, it's all about, for you again. And I've already been kind of saying this because I knew this is genetics, but it's all about decreasing inflammation. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
So bad gut bacteria can cause inflammation. Like the functional doctors, again, they're doing a good job. I can tell just by how thorough they were at the blood work
Yeah.
that they're on track with this. They're looking into this and they're trying to figure out, okay, how can we drop the inflammation? Because that's probably suppressing testosterone.
Yeah. Okay.
So then moving on, number 21 is a plus plus for stronger bones. So genetically, you've got good bones.
Good.
You may have broken one if somebody ran over your leg with a truck or something.
Or you trip over a rock running downhill, which I've done.
Oh yeah, ouch. Number 22 is interesting. It's a plus minus for less physical impairment with age. So basically, you can challenge yourself at older ages more than the average person, which is good.
Good.
Normal pain sensitivity, number 23. It's a bunch of genes I checked just to make sure people aren't injuring themselves because they're ignoring pain or something like that.
Okay.
Or if they're wimping out, right? Like because they feel pain too much, but yours is normal, so.
Okay.
Now, the next one is really interesting. Number 24 is a plus plus for SHBG being high. So sex hormone binding globulin is the transporter for testosterone.
Uh-huh.
So that's a problem because sometimes people have really high testosterone, like total testosterone, but their free testosterone is really low, and that's what your body uses is the free testosterone. That's the important thing.
Right.
So if you've got a lot of SHBG, it's like it's like a limo, right? It's like the limousine for testosterone. It transports it around your blood.
Okay.
But all the testosterone is in the limo, SHBG limo, then it can't get out and your cells can't use it. So if you have too much SHBG, it means your testosterone isn't able to be used,
Oh.
So you probably want to keep tabs on that when you do your blood work as well.
Okay.
Because that's going to be important for you genetically. And what really will also raise your SHBG is estrogen and artificial estrogens, like birth control raises it, phthalates, parabens, BPA, all the stuff that I wrote my book on, frankly, and do a lot of podcasts on. that stuff raises the SHBG off the charts. But again, yours is genetically high already, so you want to be really careful, you know.
So do even more to cut out xenoestrogens
Yeah, more than
and
the
all that.
average person probably.
Okay.
So like the biggest one I see is personal care products, and where people are rubbing it on their skin, you know, like parabens and things like that.
Yeah.
Or they just buy cheap shampoo from Walmart or whatever. You know, you want to make sure your stuff is pretty much free of all that stuff.
Yeah. IWG has a line, and Whole Foods has a line too. So
Yeah, Whole Foods.
I will go to a more natural shampoo.
Yeah, and then the other source is drinking water. You got to make sure you filter that with charcoal, activated charcoal, which you probably do. If it's like a Brita or whatever, they all have activated charcoal.
Yeah, I use a big multi-filter on my my refrigerator, and it's got a water dispenser, and then I've got a zero water pitcher. I try not to store the water in the zero water pitcher because it's plastic.
Yep.
But
Yeah, I know exactly. It's crazy out
it'd be
there.
nice if
Yeah,
they made a glass one. I'd buy
I
it.
know.
But
I know. There's one out there. Jason Perugia has it. I went to his house and he's got a glass one,
oh,
but it's real expensive. You know, like I think it's just fine to get it to use the plastic one and then just get it out of plastic right away and put it in a glass pitcher. You know,
yeah, I put it in stainless steel and keep it in the refrigerator still.
even better. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, so keep tabs on the SHBG. You know, when you do your blood test, they check for that pretty regular.
Yeah.
I didn't see it on your other one because there's so much paperwork there. And
Yeah,
you know,
I think it's there. I remember seeing it, and it looked like
yeah,
it was in a normal range to me. But
yeah, it might be. It might be because your testosterone is so low.
yeah,
That you don't need much of the limo to transport that low level of testosterone. But when you get it up, it might go up as well, pretty high. And you
okay.
probably already are doing an excellent job of keeping artificial estrogens down, you know, to be honest.
Not
So,
100%, but who does 100%? You know, sometimes you're somewhere you need water, and there's a bottle of water.
yeah, that's okay. You know, your body gets that stuff out.
Yeah,
Yeah. Just when you're doing it every day, 3 times a day, you know what I mean?
yep.
That's where people get into trouble. So, number 25, plus for increased rheumatoid arthritis risk.
Okay.
And number 26 is similar, actually, fivefold increase, so fourfold and fivefold increase. And so it kind of goes back to the idea that like inflammation is going to be the main thing that you want to protect against and prevent.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know, keto diet is really good, like once a year, a couple times a year, maybe like for a month to drop your inflammation way down. The ketones by themselves, even if you're not on a keto diet, you might want to supplement ketones. They sell ketone supplements now
The-
because ketones by themselves can decrease inflammasomes,
Are
which
you
are like inflammatory signaling.
are you talking exogenous ketones or?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can take those.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've got some. I just
yeah,
I use them sparingly, usually when
yeah,
I'm on a higher meat, higher fat diet.
yeah, and you could increase the intake on those. You know, honestly, it's almost better if you're taking those if you're eating carbs and stuff because
Okay.
they'll be decreasing inflammation. Of course, just don't eat a ton of carbs in general.
Yeah.
It's not going to be good for your longevity and
No,
your
my
telomere.
my carb intake consists of a lot of cruciferous vegetables
Oh yeah,
and very little rice or potatoes or anything that's really high glycemic.
okay. Good. Well, then you're fine. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the best thing you could do in terms of decreasing inflammation is, you know, is relating to diet, eating clean and exercising regular, not overtraining, and sleep is probably a really big one.
Yeah.
So let's
Talk about sleep.
talk about sleep in like two more genes.
Okay.
First, number 27 and 28, right?
Yep.
27 is it's an increased risk for heroin addiction and things like that. Like it's your opioid receptor.
Oh, okay.
So like if you have to get surgery or something, you want to be really careful with the morphine type drugs and the Sudafed or the Sudafed stuff, you know,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Whenever I do a surgery, they and I've done several the past bunch of years. They give me some kind of painkiller, and I'm well aware of its addictive nature, and I take it usually only the first day, and then I move on to an NSAID, which is not good
Yeah.
for your stomach, but I take it with food, and I take it as little as possible too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, this one is your mu opioid receptor. It's a plus plus issue with your mu opioid receptor. That's the one that kratom activates, actually. So, like, you
Okay.
probably want to avoid kratom. I don't know if you've heard of kratom or kratom.
I don't, no idea.
It's
See.
Kratom. It's becoming popular because it's a great alternative against the opioids when you've got surgery and things like that. It's a
Ah,
natural, and it's a lot less addictive. It's basically not addictive at all, but for you it might be addictive. It might be a risk. So probably you'll just avoid that one as well.
okay. Okay.
And then number 28 is just an increase. It's a plus minus increased risk for hypertension. So it's not super strong risk.
Okay.
But if you did have, so do you have hypertension?
I have mild hypertension right now.
Yeah, that's
I
probably
think it's
related.
related to a bunch of other things that are going on. So,
Okay, yeah. I mean, your body weight's good, so it might be related to angiotensin because that's this gene. This is an angiotensin gene.
okay.
So if you go in and the doctor finds you got really high blood pressure, you don't want that because that can cause problems in your arteries and whatnot.
Right.
Um, Usually you can mitigate with diet and lifestyle, like you said.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. But it's not going to be related to sodium, like we said. So don't let your doctor convince you to go super low salt.
Yeah. No. Okay.
It's not going to be related to a bunch of other pathways. Angiotensin would be the one you would want to focus on, and they have drugs and a lot of different things relating to angiotensin specifically. It's a hormone.
Okay.
Um, so that's, again, it's plus minus, so it's a little bit of a risk for you, but at least you know what the pathway is.
Yep.
Finally, the sleep, right? Number 29, the only sleep gene that you've got. I mean, you're pretty much normal genetically in terms of sleep. Like, you're not a late night person, you're not an early morning person, you don't have a lot of problems sleeping, restless leg, all this stuff.
Right.
But you do have a plus minus for being more sensitive to blue light. That's your TYR gene. It's tyrosinase is the name of it. Tyrosinase. It's like TYROSINASE, tyrosinase.
Okay.
That's the enzyme that produces melanin. And it uses copper to do that. So two things. You want to make sure you've got plenty of copper. Not overdosing it, but make sure you're getting your daily value.
Okay.
And then make sure, honestly, you probably should just supplement melanin every day. It's an antioxidant. It's not addictive.
Okay.
And your body doesn't produce it as well. So you might as well just help your body out and supplement it at the same time every evening. But the most important thing is to avoid blue light after the sun goes down,
Okay.
And you may have heard some stuff about this with screens. Computer screens have a lot of blue light. Phones have a lot of blue light. Even just light bulbs have a blue light, And you can ask Ben about it because he's more knowledgeable than I am. He wears those yellow blue block glasses.
Yeah. I don't have yellow ones. I've got the ones that his old coach Cassim Hansen recommended, and I just picked them up and I wear them most of the time. They're on right now.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm at a computer screen, so there's lots of blue light emissions from computer screens. So.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I wouldn't worry too much in the daytime because you actually want to get some blue light in the daytime.
Okay.
Get up in the sun and activate all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that trains your body to recognize, like, this is the daytime. And then in the evening, you want to cut it off completely.
Okay.
And that will tell your body, that'll signal to your body that, this is the time when we start shutting down. So, like, I know Ben wears his almost all day long, at least indoors. I've seen him.
Yep.
When I was there. But I recommend, like, only wear them in the evenings,
Okay.
or still early in the morning. But for you, probably in the evenings.
Okay.
But again, just in general, you're more sensitive to it. That's the big thing. And you might know more about it than I do. You can look into that, and maybe there's something I don't know. But I know Dr. Mercola is really obsessed with this topic,
Okay.
It's a good one to be obsessed with. Some people, it doesn't really matter that much, but for you, I think it does.
And it's a simple fix. Just eliminate blue light. So.
Yeah, at least in the evenings again. Yeah.
Well, I do have.
Daytime, it's okay to trigger. It's a good thing to inhibit melatonin in the daytime.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be sleepy in the daytime. You want your melatonin to be cleared.
Yep.
So that's why it's great to wake up early in the morning and get outside and look at, get out in the sunshine. So your eyes actually have to adjust to the sunlight right away as soon as it comes up, because that triggers that response to shut down.
Okay.
But again, I think most of the sleep stuff is probably related to testosterone, related to inflammation. The stuff you're working on. It's not as much genetic. It's more environmental.
Okay. Good.
And it might be related to thyroid stuff. Where you're, once you get that locked in, that will probably help as well.
Yeah.
But then the last two genes are pretty easy. Number 30 is just a plus for higher frequency of AFib. Atrial fibrillation. It's just a genetic thing. If you get it, it's a genetic thing.
Okay.
And most of the time, magnesium, if you're supplementing magnesium consistently, that really helps prevent that stuff.
Okay.
Most people that have it, that get AFib, are just really deficient in magnesium, frankly. And that's pretty much most Americans. So
yeah.
Probably don't have any issues here. And then finally, number 31 is just your blood type. Your blood type O.
Yep.
So you probably know that, but I figured I'll throw it on there.
Oh yeah, I was Army for 32 years. It was always on my dog tag, so O positive.
Yep. So. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, really, honestly, like, you have great genetics. Your homocysteine was really high on your blood. I mean, a bunch of inflammation markers were high.
Yep.
But it's not genetic. A lot of people have genetic issues where their homocysteine is high from their genes, their detox genes. But your detox genes were surprisingly good.
Good.
So I think a lot of that stuff, again, it's just the histamine makes me nervous, right? Like, I'd obsess over that if I was you.
I will. I'll take you at your word.
Yeah, because that was a plus gene. You already got the Crohn's thing, like the grains dialed in. You're avoiding those because that's always important.
Yeah. I will cheat every now and then and have a piece of bread because I love bread, but.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have any issue with that. I mean, the only other suggestion I have, I guess, relating to decreasing inflammation is Stephen Gundry has done a lot of work with lectins.
Okay.
He's the guy that wrote the Plant Paradox book. It's like a New York Times bestseller, and it's a fairly recent book, but you might want to read the Plant Paradox because he's had really good success with people that have rheumatoid arthritis, especially. His diet is really exceptional for people with a high inflammation, right? And that's what you're at risk of.
Okay.
Because like the disc disease in your back, that's from inflammation.
Okay.
The rheumatoid arthritis risk, that's because your immune system is ready to attack your body.
Yep.
That's just genetic, and that doesn't mean that has to happen. It just means you have to make sure you never have that systemic inflammation. And
okay.
So that's the key, I think, with your genes. It's not one magic thing here or there, but there's a few things that that will help. So like I say, sugar.
And work on reducing histamines or cutting out histamines altogether.
Yeah.
Whatever elicits a histamine response. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Yeah. Just so you know, recently, back in June, I developed ran a fever for 8 days, 102.8, peaked at 104.8. And at the end of it, I wound up with a limitation on my arm.
Wow.
And in two directions, vertical and horizontal. And my MAC guy and the IWG folks are pinpointing it towards a C6 and C7 spine, that there's a nerve that's pinched, and that's probably due to inflammation from whatever that was that gave me that fever. So.
Yeah. Yeah, have you tried? Well, I guess you're doing this detox thing right now, so you're probably in ketosis right now, more or less, right?
No, not really, because it's the detox is a lot of high fiber vegetables, and today is our first day of adding in some low fat meats. Once this cleanse is done, then I'll go into probably a higher fat meat cycle.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, because leafy greens and cruciferous and all that, they don't have any carbs,
Right. They're all fiber.
Yeah, and that's good. And I think I think going into ketosis would be really beneficial. I would go through the process of whatever they're doing, but I
Okay.
also think, like a strict keto diet for a month would really help you with inflammation.
And I'll probably do that because I just actually I freed Ben up from his time because he was giving me coaching and I'm not a guy that likes to take things for free for too long.
Yeah.
So I basically told him because I had some problems, I was emotionally distraught and all that, and I basically said, you know what, I'm gonna withdraw from your coaching because you need the free time. You've got too much on your plate, and I'm just one additional burden.
Yeah.
So I asked him if it was okay if I went with Danny Vega, who's the keto culture guru.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So he's going to design a diet for me, and
I just talked to him yesterday or 2 days ago now.
Yeah, he's a great guy too.
Yeah. No, that's good. I think that's a really good strategy for dropping inflammation.
Okay.
Because there's such good evidence for that. But the problem is most people, they think they're doing the keto diet, but they're eating way too much protein, and protein can be converted to sugar in your body.
Yep.
Can be converted to glucose. Whereas like the true keto diet that I think you should do for a month would be like 80% fat, 15% protein, and 5% carbs by calorie percentages.
Okay.
Like in other words, like strict keto diet. And again, do this for a month. Like you don't want to carry on like that for forever.
Oh no, I'm a big fan of dietary rotation. Let's put it that way, because every diet has some kind of a benefit. It's just that for too long, anything for too long is not good for you.
Becomes imbalanced. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I like Mark Sisson's book. He's got a book called The Keto Reset, and it's kind of like, I think that's the thesis, right? Like you do it for 30 days, a year, or whatever, and you reset your metabolism, because that's exactly what happens. It's kind of like, if you run an airport, or you build airplanes.
Yep.
You have a factory that builds airplanes, and then somebody comes in and says, "Now I want you to build ships."
Okay.
Like you can't overnight. You can't just suddenly start building ships, even though you have a lot of the big machinery. It takes a while to kind of get that system up and running.
Yep.
And when you teach your body to burn fats, and your body is used to burning sugars for the most part, even if you're eating a lot of protein, it's converted to glucose, and you're burning sugar.
Right.
It takes a while. It takes a few weeks usually for the system to change and have those positive benefits, and then once you get the benefits, you don't have to stay on it because the system is primed to burn fat.
Okay.
Danny is an expert. He knows all about this stuff. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it. If you have any other questions, though,
No, sir. I think you've done a very thorough job. I appreciate your working me in.
Right. Yeah. Sorry about the last week there.
That was my mental instability with the testosterone.
No, I didn't even get your emails until later because I just kind of go with my calendar.
Yeah, I was going to say you got a life. You can't just dedicate it to one person. You got too many people on your plate too. So I understand.
But it's a good thing, Like I think the DNA is really powerful. It's not everything because environment is a really big factor, but it helps.
Yeah.
That's why I do it.
Okay.
So good to meet you, Rodger, and have a good afternoon, or I guess good morning.
Yeah, I got dental surgery this afternoon, so.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So in fact, in about an hour, so I can't even eat anything till after it's over. So.
All right. Well, have a good day.
You too. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, so that was the interview with Dr. Anthony J. from AJ Consulting on his analysis of my 23andMe data.